Our next speaker is a friend of one of our classmates. His name is Mishy Harmon, and he will be talking about MUSETRek, and I could not understand what it was from the description he sent me, so he's here to come and explain it. So, welcome to the stage.
Hi. In the next few minutes, I'm going to introduce you to an idea which has become my passion over the past few years, and which I hope you'll find as exciting as I do, which is MUSETRek. And because one of the themes of tonight was inspiration, I'm going to start with a story in 3 acts, to all of the lovers of this American life here, which span 6 years, and which together inspired me to create MUSETRek. Act 1. MUSETRek, well, there really isn't any sophisticated way to say this. All started off with Dan Brown. And the first story happens in the summer of 2004, and it's on the 27th of June 2004 to be exact, which was the day that I got out of the Israeli army. And for those of you that don't know, this is a day that you dream about and pray for 3 really long years. And when it finally comes around, it's really anticlimactic. There's this girl sitting at a desk who takes your equipment, she erases your name from the list, and then she looks at you and she says, "Thank you." And having exerted so much mental energy imagining this day for so long, you think that there's no way that this is how it could all end, that there must be some grander festivity. So you just wait there for something to happen. And the only thing that happens is that she looks at you, kind of bored, because she herself is counting down the days till she gets out of the army. And she politely nudges you along and says, "Okay, thank you, you're done, you can go now." And all of your dreams of naked girls jumping out of cakes and congratulating you are all shattered. And you reluctantly go and wait for the bus back home. And as I was doing that, I bought a newspaper. As I was waiting for the bus, I bought a newspaper, and it had a little picture of Simon and Garfunkel. And underneath it was a caption that said that the following week they were going to be playing a free concert in the Colosseum in Rome. And this was one of these moments of clarity where things kind of click. And it became clear to me now that my entire military service had magically led in some teleological way to the Colosseum. And I was going to take the money that the army gives you when you get discharged, and I was going to fly to Rome and see Simon and Garfunkel sing, which I did, and it was great. The concert was great. Sorry, there's a really bad image coming up. This is the concert, which was great. Since I was already in Rome, I decided to make a little liberation trip out of it, and I spent a few weeks there. And I did what any tourist in Rome does, which is go to an endless string of churches and admire, a seemingly infinite number of paintings of Jesus. And that was great. It was a total blast. The first day was amazing. The second, even the third day were really good. But by the 4th day, I was all Renaissance arted out. And that is when I remembered that at the airport, I picked up a copy of Dan Brown's Angels and Demons. And I'm sure most of you guys have read it, or at least heard of it, but if any of you have, for some odd reason, not, it's a precursor to the Da Vinci Code, and it's kind of a light but thrilling tale of these conspiracies in the upper echelons of the papacy, and what's most important is that it takes place in Rome. So I decided that I was going to follow the plot of the book around the city, and that Dan Brown was going to become my tour guide to Rome. So I went from one gruesome murder scene in the Piazza Navona to a dazzling chase scene in St. Peter's Square. And every time I got to these new places, which I had previously experienced through the lens of slightly tedious architectural, artistic, historical explanations, now they kind of came to life. They sprang to life as part of a narrative. And narratives, I thought to myself, and the way that physical places are presented can really ignite an excitement and fascination. Okay, Act 2. 4 years afterwards, my long-term then girlfriend broke up with me. And as she was doing that, she said that I wasn't flexible enough. So I spent the greater part of a year of doing a master's in Cambridge trying to figure out how to become more flexible. And at the end, here's what I came up with. I took this cardboard sign that wrote anywhere on it, and stood outside of my college, ready to hitchhike to anywhere people would take me. And this trip didn't really have any planned destination, but I harbored this secret hope that if things went really, really well, I would end up in Seville, in Spain, where I had this fantasy of going to a local barber, getting a shave, and asking for tips about my love life. Separate story. I started off, and after a few days of adventures in England, which included a whole day of refilling soda vending machines with this Pakistani from Birmingham, and participating in a basement rehearsal of the teenage punk band, and getting my Nikon D40 camera stolen by this gay Moroccan in London. I got onto a van with gypsies that put me onto the ferry to Calais, to France. And while I was on the ferry, I went to the truck driver's cafeteria to see if there was anyone who was going to Spain. And there were plenty of people going to Spain, but no one agreed to take me except for this one guy, Vladimir. Who did not speak any English at all. And I said, Vladimir, where are you going? And he said, Spain. And I said, Spain, that's so great, can I come with you? And he didn't understand what I was saying, so he said yes. And then there I was in his big semi-trailer. And we exhausted all of our common vocab after he said, George Bush, George Bush. And in the ensuing silence, I noticed that he took this unexpected left-hand turn into Belgium. And I looked at him and I said, Vladimir, Spain, Spain. And he looked back at me kind of confused and he said, no, no Spain, Ukraine. So I thought to myself that this was a prime opportunity to practice my flexibility. Over the next 4 days, we took turns driving his semi-trailer all across Europe to the Ukraine. And then, adopting some sort of Forrest Gump-like mentality, I decided that if I had gotten this far, I might as well continue. So I hitchhiked to Moscow, and then boarded the Trans-Siberian Railway, which is this, which crossed all of Russia and Siberia and the Gobi Desert and Mongolia, and then finally stopped in Beijing. And I spent a few weeks in China traveling around, and at this point, the emails in my inbox from my advisor back at Cambridge, which had started piling up. All of this was in the middle of the semester. And there were just so many times that I could claim to have just missed her in the department, so I had to return. And there was no time to go back via land, so what I did is I went to the airport and I asked for a ticket for the cheapest flight to anywhere west of there that day. So this stern-looking Chinese guy looks at his computer, then looks back at me and notifies me that I'm in luck, because 3 hours later, there's a really cheap flight to Spain. So I ended up getting to Spain after all, and I met Mustafa, the barber, who was an awful barber, but gave me some tips, which weren't great, but whatever. And then I hitchhiked back from there back to Cambridge. And throughout this journey, I had a million crazy experiences, many of them very, very local, which I collected and wanted to share. And I could have written a blog, but having been the recipient of many invitations to read my friends' travelogues over the years, and knowing what a pain it is and how you feel bad about not accepting, because they can see who accepts and who doesn't, but then you don't really want to read all of their travelogues. I knew that my friends, living their normal lives in their normal cities, didn't want to vicariously experience my trip, and they didn't really care about finding a great pierogi place in Kiev, or almost becoming an unwitting drug mule in Ulaanbaatar or stuff like that. Where they would have cared about this is if they were at the place themselves, if they later were visiting these places, and then they could read my experiences and recollections from there. And I thought this because I myself felt that way, and wherever I went, there were always new things, and I didn't know exactly what to do and what to see. And many places had, no signs in English at all, or very weird signs in English. And I constantly found myself wishing that I could consume content that would have been created by a trusted source of information, my friends or people like-minded travelers that would have helped me navigate all these new sights and sounds.